Today we're going to talk about slope, and it's similar to what we talked about on Friday. So if you remember, on Friday we talked about constant rate of change. So the definition of slope is the rate of change between any 2 points on a line. You'll also hear it called rise over run, okay, or your change in y over your change in x. So go ahead and copy this down in your notes. Okay, so slope is the rate of change between any 2 points on a line. So here we have change in y over change in x. Okay. You hear it called rise over run. Okay, so this is going 2 up and 1 to the right. Okay. Also, you could pick your 2 points. So this one is 2, 3, and this one is 1, 1. Okay. Your change in y, so you subtract. So if you remember on Friday, we had x1, y1, and x2, y2. This is the same thing. Your change in y will be your y2 minus y1, and your change in x will be x2 minus x1. So here, this is going to be 3 minus 1, here's your y2 and here's your y1, over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1, which simplifies to 2. So we're really doing the exact same thing that we did on Friday. It just has a different name. We're calling it slope now instead of constant rate of change. Okay. If you see down here, it says the constant rate of change, or unit rate, is the same as the slope, or the related linear relationship. So constant rate of change, unit rate, and slope are all the same thing. Okay, go ahead and copy this down. It says the table below shows the relationship between the number of seconds y it takes to hear thunder after a lightning strike and the miles x you are from the lightning. Graph the data and find the slope. Explain what the slope represents. Okay, so take a moment to copy this down, please. Okay, so we're going to graph these first. So I'm going to put, so our miles is x, so this will be miles here, and our seconds is y. Okay. I'm going to have my miles go by ones, because these are going by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. My seconds, if you notice, these are increasing by 5, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, so now we're going to graph this. Remember, your x goes left or right. In this case, they're all positive, so it's going right. And your y goes up. So we're going to go, we start at 0, 0. And we're going to go right 1 and up 5. So that puts it here. And then right 2 and up to 10. And then right to 3 and up to 15. Right to 4 up to 20. And right to 5 and up to 25. Okay, so here's our data graphed. Okay. I'm going to draw a line through this. So we're going to find the slope. So remember, our slope is our change in y over our change in x. Because we have the table, it makes it pretty easy. So you can just pick any 2 numbers off of the table. So I'm going to pick 3 and 15 and 2 and 10. So remember, this is the same thing as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you're going to find your change between these. So to go from 10 to 15, that's increasing by 5. So 15 minus 10 gives us 5. So I start with y first, which is why I started there. So that's going to be 5 over. To go from 2 to 3, that's positive 1. Or 3 minus 2 gives us 1. So it's going to be 5 over 1. So our slope is going to be 5. Now we need to explain what this represents. So what this represents is for every 5 seconds, between a lightning flash and thunder, there is 1 mile between you and the lightning strike. So you have to figure out your slope, and then you have to interpret what this means, and it needs to make sense. Okay. So make sure that you get that copied down. So when it comes to figuring out the slope, remember it's just the same thing that we did on Friday. So nothing new there. Okay, so copy this down and try this one on your own. Graph the data about plant height for a science fair project. Then find the slope of the line. Explain what the slope represents in the work zone. Okay, so take a moment and copy this down, please. Okay. So let's work this out. So we have time in weeks and plant height in centimeters. So after 1 week, the plant height is 1.5 centimeters. So I go over 1 and up to 1.5. So right in the middle there. Week 2, it's 3 centimeters. So I go up to 3. Week 3 is 4.5 centimeters. So I go up between the 4 and the 5. And week 4 will be 6 centimeters. I'm going to draw a line through this. So we need to figure out what our slope is. So you're going to pick 2 points. This time I'm going to use this one and this one. So I'm going to find my change in y. So 6 minus 3 over my change in x, 4 minus 2. So 6 minus 3 is 3, 4 minus 2 is 2, and then we need to simplify this. So we're going to write this as a decimal. 3/2 is the same thing as 1.5. So there's my slope. Now we need to explain what it represents. So it means the plant grows 1.5 centimeters a week, so per week. So that was a shorter explanation. So you need to have both the explanation, and I need to see how you got your slope to make sure that you're doing it correctly. Okay, let's look at example 2. Copy this down, please. Ronaldo opened a savings account Each week he deposits $300. Draw a graph of the account balance versus time. Find the numerical value of the slope and interpret it into words. So take a moment to write this down. Okay, for this one, they don't give us a table. So we just have to graph it. So Ronaldo opened a savings account. Each week he deposits $300. So I'm going to have weeks. And this is going to be the money. Okay. So each week, so I'm going to go by ones. Okay. And I'm going to go by 300s over here because it's changing by 300s. So 300, 6. Okay. So after 0 weeks, he doesn't have anything in it yet. So after 1 week, he'll have $300. After 2 weeks, it'll be $600. After 3 weeks, it'll be $900. After 4 weeks, his total will be $1,200. After 5 weeks, the total will be $1,500. After 6 weeks, it'll be $1,800. After 7 weeks, it'll be $2,100, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line through this. Okay. So we need to find the numerical value of the slope. There's a couple ways that we can do that with this one. Okay. So we can use the rise over run, or we could do our change in y over our change in x. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to show you both methods. So the rise over run, you pick 2 points. So let's look at this point and this point. So rise, I'm going to look at how much am I going up. Okay, so I'm going up from 900 to 1200. That's up 300. Over my run is how far am I going to the right. I'm going from 3 to 4, so that's just changing by 1. Okay, so that gives me 300 as my slope. Okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if we use our change in y over our change in x, I'm going to pick 2 different points this time. So I'm going to pick these ones. I'm going to write down my ordered pair. So here this is 5 and 1500. And this here is 2 and 600. So my change in y, so that's me 1500 minus 600 over my change in x. So that's me 5 over 2. Remember, we have to put, 5 minus 2. We have to put 5 first because we put 1500 first. So if we put this one first, this has to go first on the bottom. Okay, you've got to keep those lined up together. So we're going to subtract 1500 minus 600. That gives us 900. Over 5 minus 2 is 3. So then we simplify this. 900 divided by 3 is 300. Okay, so you get the same answer. And you can pick any 2 points for your rise and run, and any 2 points if you choose to do your change in y over your change in x. Okay. You will use this a lot when you get to Algebra 1, so that's why I want you to be familiar with that. Okay, so now we need to interpret it. So what this means is the account balance increases. It's positive, so it's increasing by $300 a week. Okay, so make sure that you get that copied down, please. Okay, So here's one similar to that. So copy this down. Jessica has a balance of $35 on her cell phone account. She adds $10 each week for the next 4 weeks. In the work zone, graph the account balance versus time. Find the numerical value of the slope and interpret it in words. So this one's just a little bit different, so see if you can figure this one out. Go ahead and copy this down, please. Okay, so she starts off with a balance of $35. Okay, so we'll put at 0, she's at $35. She adds $10 each week for the next 4 weeks. So 35 plus 10 is 45. It'll be about here. 45 plus 10 is 55. 55 plus 10 is 65. And 65 plus 10 is 75. Okay. So our graph should look something like this. Oops. Fix that, sorry. Okay, so there's our graph. So find the numerical value of the slope and interpret it in words. So I'm going to pick 2 points. So this one is x is 4 and y is 75. And I'll use this one where x is 2 and y is 55. So 75 minus 55 over 4 minus 2. So 75 minus 55 gives us 20. 4 minus 2 is 2. So 20 divided by 2 gives us 10. Okay, so there's our slope. So she adds $10 each week for the next 4 weeks. So we need to figure out how to interpret this 10. Okay. So what this means is that Jessica adds $10 per week, so $10 a week, to her account. Okay. So those are pretty easy. Okay. So there's nothing new from what we learned on Friday. It's the same thing, we're just calling it slope now instead of constant rate of change. Okay. So make sure that you have all this written down and let me know if you have any questions.